I'm coming, earphone. I'm coming.
Welcome back to American Warrior Radio, right here on the Talk to Me station, AM 1300 WMEL. And listen, folks, if you're not in our immediate broadcast area, which covers all of Brevard, most of Volusia, some of Orange, and certainly down into Indian Harbor, if you're outside that parameter, you can always listen to us live or check us out on our archives or even YouTube and the American Warrior Facebook page, which is all accessible by going to 1300WMEL.com. Click on the archives button and you'll see American Warrior Radio come up. Our Facebook page lists, AVET Project's website comes up. So I don't care if you're in Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Mexico, Afghanistan, Korea, and the DMZ, you can check us out, 1300WMEL.com. Now, with that said, I gotta tell you folks, there's some other cool stuff we want to share with you that's available here locally. Okay, it's available locally, so you have to be on the Space Coast. But if you are a veteran or an active duty military member, regardless of the branch, you don't have to be Air Force, Navy, you can be Army, Marines, whatever. The Brevard County Manatees, for the second year in a row now, is hosting their military salute. AVET Project got involved by providing something really unique that you will find out when you get there. But I want you to go to avetproject.org. From the homepage, about halfway down, you'll see a link, and it shows the manatee. I forget his Manny the Manatee. He's on there.
Yeah.
Click on that. Put your information down when you'd like to see a game, because you get 4 tickets right by the dugout. You get 4 hot dogs, 4 drinks, and then during the second inning or thereabouts, they call you up onto the dugout and present you with this awesome plaque that AVET Project has helped provide the Manatees. And it's just a really unique way for you to get some recognition for your service to our country, whether you're active duty or a veteran. Check it out, because there's still lots of home games available.
Yeah, and that is so cool. And don't be shy. Every one of you out there that served our great nation deserves this kind of an honor. And what a cool way, particularly if you have younger kids or even older kids, to go and have a family outing at the ballpark. Let me tell you, it's great. And if you've been to a major league ballpark or you've been out here during spring training, those prices have disappeared. The prices are really reasonable now if you're going to have more than the 4 hot dogs and the 4 drinks that they provide free of charge. Do it. Go to AVET, and what was the address again?
Just avetproject.org. Halfway down the page, click on the icon for the Manatees and get signed up for that. We wanted to mention, this is a special day, Glenn. A very special day in our nation's history, because what happened some 60 years ago today?
Actually, 60 years to the minute.
Wow.
Was the date that they quit fighting in Korea. So 60 years ago. And no, it was not a war, at least not on the record. It is by VA benefit law, but it is not by
declared war.
Regular law, I guess, for lack of a better term. They quit fighting on the 27th of July, 1953. So 60 in that, it's 27 July, 2013, obviously. But let me throw in real quick, when we're talking about eligibility for pension purposes for people, lower income veterans going into an assisted living facility or in nursing homes even, one of the qualifications is that if you served before 1980, you had to have 90 days of active duty, 1 day of which was during a period of war. For VA purposes, Korea is war, but it also, after 53, they went on for a couple of years in Panmunjom with the political wrangling back and forth about the DMZ and
38th parallel,
38th parallel and all that kind of stuff. In other words, a dividing line between North and South Korea. For you younger listeners out there that may not have all that, because I'm not real happy with the lack of history in school, but that's another topic.
But it is important, because I saw a satellite image of the Korean Peninsula. The southern half, now that's the Democratic Republic of
Right.
South Korea,
Right.
is from a satellite up in space. It's all lit up. I mean, it looks like a Christmas tree. And then there's a clear mark where from there north, it's black, except for one or two little tiny spots.
Well, they may not have a lot of electricity. That's one of the poorest countries in the world.
Yep.
Led by maniacs.
Mm-hmm.
2 in a row. The father, and then when the father passed, the son, and I think the son's more of a maniac than the father was. But
and they're just subjecting their own people to the most inhumane, insufferable conditions. Period.
Yeah, the people are going to revolt against that somewhere along the way, just like people all over the place have done that. So, but let me finish and say, even though the war ended 60 years ago today, to be eligible for the pension, you can go up to early months in 55, and they still consider that you were a wartime veteran during the Korean War for pension eligibility purposes. Again, I don't give you much more details than that because people are too prone to self-disqualify themselves when they know not why they're doing it, but they think they do. And we're in the business of helping you qualify yourself, not disqualify yourself.
Exactly. So what he's saying is get in there and see a credentialed service officer, somebody that knows what they're talking about regarding the 38 Code of Federal Regulations.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and you know, it was called a conflict, and all the Korean veterans I've ever seen still bristle about that these days.
It was obviously a war. I have an uncle that suffered, and it wasn't just a war. I mean, there's all kinds of battles we can talk about that were just horrifying. Okay.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
I have an uncle who was in the Marines. He had his bicep shredded, hand-to-hand fighting. These were bayonet against bayonet.
Yeah.
He's got shrapnel up and down his spine from explosives and all this kind of stuff. These guys and gals, and there's a whole lot of you out there, and I hope a lot of you are listening. If you know a Korean War vet, okay, you need to take the time today to either track them down or give them a phone call and say, thank you for your service.
And do you suffer from disabilities that you picked up during the war conflict, if you will? Then you need to get with a credentialed service officer and file a claim. You know, you Korean guys are one of the worst groups, and sorry Marines, but you're the worst group about filing claims for disabilities you incurred or even serious illnesses you incurred on active duty. For example, in Korea, if people were, and not just the Chosan Reservoir, but that's a classic example of a battle they had in Korea at the Chosan Reservoir, and our troops were like having Sunday or summertime clothes on virtually. They didn't have the right kind of cold weather gear. The temperatures were down in the -20s and so. And the VA finally, many years ago, fortunately, has recognized people exposed to extreme cold have a whole list of things that causes as a disability, and among which is multi-joint arthritis. And I had a gentleman in my office, it's been several years ago now, but he was at the Chosan Reservoir. He had 2 silver stars, and the VA, the VA, ever since he'd gotten out of the military, had continued to refuse giving him service connection for multi-joint arthritis.
But you got it through for him.
We got it through for him, and I was really proud about that. He tried to pay me, and I almost had to beat him off with a bat.
Well, he was that appreciative. But the idea is there's cold weather injuries, and you said there's a host of them. So if you have any kind of, if you're a Korean War vet and you've never filed for a compensation and you've got some nagging injuries that you relate back to your service, you better get off your butt and go see the County Veteran Service Officer, or at least another credentialed service officer.
Yeah, let's at least talk about it.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to talk. Maybe you don't have a claim.
Maybe you don't want to talk about it to the family or other people. You can talk to us because it's not going anywhere else. We don't run out on the street and say, Joe Smith saw me today and I think he's got a real good... No, we don't do that.
And I want to mention, I've got a wonderful neighbor. His name is Chuck, and he was in the Air Force during the Korean War. And upon talking with him, he had never filed any type of benefit with the VA. And obviously he had his DD-214. He was entitled to apply for health care. I had to talk him into it because he said, we hear this a lot. There's so many other guys and gals that have it
more
worse
deserving than me.
Stop that.
Yes.
No, if you were there and you have honorable service and you're entitled, you're going to be eligible and you need to apply.
Absolutely.
What's the other program we were going to mention about the Korean War vets that's happening here? Because it's free also.
Oh yeah, the honor flight, which has been focusing on World War II veterans, and that's giving them free flights to Washington, D.C.
Why aren't they doing more World War II vets?
Well, guess what? They're dying off at an ever-increasing rate. Last figure I saw was 1,700 per day.
Wow.
At that rate, there's not going to be many left around. I mean,
you got to figure they're in their 90s.
Yeah, well, my father-in-law was a B-24 bomber pilot, and he is 89 years old, so they're just dying of old age, basically, if they weren't killed off already by some lingering disease or disability that they picked up in World War II. So the plan of the Honor Flight people, the people that manage and run that wonderful program, is to now go to the Korean War veterans, because there is a Korean War memorial in Washington,
Beautiful
D.C.
memorial.
And some of those people are also World War II and Korean
That's
double
true.
veterans, and
Yep.
and there are even triple veterans
There are.
that fought in Vietnam on top of, so 3 wars. Of course, nowadays you get 4 trips to 1 war,
Yeah.
but unfortunately. So that contact Honor Flight, if somebody in your family is a Korean War veteran and would be anxious to go there and see all the monuments for the Korean War veterans, that they were World War II veterans, that include the World War II veteran. They visit Arlington and many of the things in our national capital. It's a wonderful thing. It's absolutely free for the veteran.
Yes, it is.
There is a charge for the escorts, but it's not outrageous. But you know, go on the internet and type in Honor Flight, Brevard County.
Or spacecoasthonorflight.org.
Yes.
Spacecoasthonorflight.org. General Welser and his crew do a phenomenal job in making sure that these folks get the recognition they probably never got before.
Oh yeah, and you know the escorts sometimes come back more impressed than the actual veteran does, because it's so it makes you tingle, makes your heart open up.
It really does.
Fellow veterans.
I was privileged enough to be an escort / guardian for my POW out of Rolling Thunder, and Jerry was a World War II POW, my guy, from my Rolling Thunder chapter, and we just had a blast. But I guarantee you one thing, I was dog tired, because it's a 24-hour cycle.
It's a busy day, a very long, strenuous day.
And this man's 89 years old, and he could have whipped my butt at the end of the day. That's how jacked up and happy they are to finally be going up to visit their memorial. So, folks, check that out, spacecoasthonorflight.org, and get your Korean War vet, family member or what have you. Even if it's a neighbor, who cares? If they fought in Korea, we want to get them recognized, and that's a fine way to do it.
You betcha.
So, we just mentioned POWs, and we've touched upon this subject several times. Thank God there aren't more nowadays. We have one right now, currently.
That's right, one.
Bo Bergdahl, and he's been missing for some 4 years now.
Well, I saw a couple of weeks ago there seems to be some communications going on where between the Taliban and our government to try and get this guy released back to our custody. Well, custody is the wrong term. Released back as a free man, as an American fighting man. So.
Yeah, so let's hope we make some progress there. But for all the other past war POWs, or conflict POWs, because you have to understand, folks, the War Powers Act through the executive branch has really kind of superseded what the Constitution allowed, which says that Congress has to declare war. Well, guess what? The last time that actually happened was World War II. Every conflict since has been these War Powers Act that the president got us involved in conflicts. And what's funny, and what's probably going to happen with Afghanistan, is we haven't won a single one. Every declared war, of the 5 declared wars by Congress, we beat the pants off of our enemy. All right? Every one that hasn't been declared, well, you know the story.
Yep, on and on and on till you just quit.
Yep, exactly. It was not... Now, I want to share this. That is not that the troops in Korea or Vietnam. Okay, we do have one pretty good success, PGW-1. When we had our guest on, I mean, we slaughtered them. That wasn't even a war, really.
Yeah, what was that, the 100-Day War?
Exactly. We just absolutely annihilated them. And I believe we could do that today with any nation on the planet. We have the strongest, bravest, fightingest men and women and some of the best equipment the world's ever known, and we could crush any enemy of ours if we chose to do so.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, on the funny side, the Iraqis, I think, after the first few days of battle, went out and invested in backup lights for their tanks.
So they could see where they were going as they retreated.
So they could get out of the way, yeah.
Okay, so we got one POW right now, and I encourage y'all to, Google his name, Bo Bergdahl. Find out more about him. His dad has always been clamoring to get him out. And for us to be thinking about getting out of this conflict, war, whatever you want to call it, where we've lost so many lives and so many guys and gals have been injured, and leave one behind? That's just
no, we don't do that.
Nope, we don't. But we have in past wars to the tune of some 80,000. So, if there's a POW out there that's listening, or a family member, or even a friend or churchgoer or business associate, what are some of the benefits that a POW is entitled to have, Glenn?
Well, you have to break it down into two categories. One category is it doesn't matter how long you were a POW. The other category is you had to be 30 days or longer a POW to qualify for. Some of the benefits overlap, but the laws give different start dates to them.
Okay.
Well, let's take the POW 1 day to 29 days.
Okay.
They can get service connected on a presumptive basis.
What's that mean?
Presumptive means if you are afflicted with one of these problems that I'm going to tell you about, you will be approved for service connection if you were a POW from 1 to 29 days. It's just a matter of how severe is it will determine what the percentage that the VA will assign to that.
Okay, so give me one disability you're talking about.
Psychosis.
Okay, so psychosis. Let's say he gets diagnosed with some psychosis, but it really doesn't limit his activities and his functioning. The VA they will recognize that as service connected, but assign like a 0% to it?
If it had little to no effect, it probably would be a 0%,
okay.
But that still entitles them to
all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, treatment from the VA for medical problems associated with that psychosis. Mental health groups and training and treatment and all of that would go along with a psychosis type problem. Then after that comes any of the anxiety states, including PTSD. So. If you got a diagnosis, not just aside from PTSD, obviously that's one of them, but there's a host of other types of anxiety disorders that could be. You end up getting a diagnosis of that, but not post-traumatic stress disorder. You an ex-POW for 1 to 29 days, it's approved.
Done. I like that. That's the least we can do for them.
Oh, you bet. Dystemic disorder, including depressive neurosis, that's in easy to understand terms, that's depression.
Very good.
Yeah. So, cold injury with documented exposure. So there's a caveat on that one.
Okay.
But Battle of the Bulge is, you wouldn't have to document much more than have your service records show that you were at the Battle of the Bulge, because that's another place our troops were ill-equipped for a record cold temperature during the Battle of the Bulge in Germany, and they didn't have the cold weather gear to protect them from it. I've had clients in and I couldn't believe what they were telling me. They were flooding across the shallows in a river. The temperature outside was like minus 30 degrees, and the water was colder than that, and
the only reason it wasn't frozen is because the water was rushing by so fast.
Thin pants, no long underwear or any of that kind of stuff, no parkas. But they held on and stopped Germany's plan to split our troops in half over there, which could have lengthened the war for a significant period of time.
So these are all war heroes, folks. These are heroic men and women. But so that's another one. So there's a lot of these called presumptives. So
that's right. If you've got it and you're a POW for 1 to 29 days, it'll be service connected from 0 to 100%, depending on how severe it is.
Severe it is now.
Yeah, today.
Exactly. So what's the other category you were talking about?
Well, the other category is, well, let me add one more that's important to add in here, because it was added a few years ago. It didn't come out on the initial list, and that's stroke. If you suffer a stroke and you're a POW 1 to 29 days, and think about this for a minute. Strokes cause all kinds of residual effects. You might lose sight in an eye, you lose mobility in one side of your body. That precludes you from ambulating, moving around, walking correctly. You might have to be in a wheelchair. It may certainly affect your thinking processes and abilities. All kinds of things caused by a stroke. Well, stroke, yes, and all of that secondary stuff, yes, that's also presumptive.
Exactly. So that's super important for you to understand. You're presumed that these conditions are related to your captivity from 1 to 29 days.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now we'll switch over to 30 or more, and it's not over 30. It always makes a difference to say 30 or more.
Right, right.
Because if you were there 30 days, you're in this category. And some of these are vitaminosis. It's a vitamin deficiency caused obviously by lack of diet.
Proper nutrition, yeah.
Nutrition in the diet, if they had even a diet.
Exactly, watery rice.
Yeah. And another one related similarly is beriberi heart problems. Chronic dysentery. Can't believe this. 60 years ago, and some of these Korean ex-POWs could be still suffering from chronic dysentery. Some of the World War II POWs.
It's horrifying.
Some of the Vietnam. In Vietnam, of course, being the last big engagement where we've got significant numbers of ex-POWs out there.
Right, right.
Malnutrition and optic atrophy. Pellagra, which is another nutritional deficiency, peptic ulcer disease, peripheral neuropathy, except where related to infectious causes. Forget that part. Peripheral neuropathy.
If your doctor diagnoses
you're going to get it.
Yep.
Cirrhosis of the liver. Interesting.
Often associated with over drinking.
Yeah, often associated with alcoholism, but that's not usually an issue in getting this rated positively.
Exactly.
And now let me tell you the big one. Remember all the ones that we talked about 1 to 29 days?
Yes.
Well, if you're 30 days or more, these are additional ones I've been covering, but you are also entitled to service connection presumptively for all of them.
Right.
For the 1 to 29 days and the 30 days and more if you're an ex-prisoner of war. And let me tell you, from my experience, and I know Garen's going to agree with this is one area where the VA will roll over and play dead, if you will, and give you more than the benefit of the doubt in what percentage they assign, and they will do everything they can possibly do, depending on how many of these you might have and how severe they are. If they can find a way to get you 100%, they will.
That's a fact. It is. It's and thank God, you know.
Yeah, and it should be.
Exactly, because imagine, I don't know if anybody out there in listener radio land has ever been to jail, but you were there because you did something wrong, okay? These POWs were snatched away or disarmed or something and thrown into the most horrifying, horrid conditions for extended periods of time. They didn't bother with the old Geneva Convention, did they? You know,
I don't think anybody we've ever fought bothered with the Geneva Convention. They're not signatories, or if they are, they forgot they were signatories.
Exactly.
To the Geneva Convention. It's kind of like a one-armed fight. You know, you got one hand tied behind your back. You're fighting under the Geneva Convention, and the enemy's not.
Exactly. And we've
especially when it comes to the POW thing, and hopefully many of you are familiar with the horrors associated with having been a POW and the maltreatment, and maltreatment is too kind a word, but hoorah for them, and anything they can get, they deserve and more.
That's a fact. That's why AVET Project, during our annual Veterans Day celebration, always selects a prisoner of war that probably has never been recognized. Our latest one was Jerry Walter. We had Congressman Posey come and give him his medals that he hadn't received in over 60 years from World War II. And the information's up there, okay? Go to AVET Project's Facebook, go YouTube it. It's all there. He did an exhaustive interview with Channel 13 News. It's really, look folks, these guys and gals, because there are female women warriors from World War II and beyond, their story's going to die when they die, and we've got to learn. We've got to avail ourselves of what they have to teach us, because it's incredible stuff. Encourage you to sign up for Honor Flight. There's just so many different ways. I'm telling you again, go to the Manatee's Military Salute. Okay, it's free. Okay.
Our favorite word is free, and it's a lot of fun.
It sure is. And I want to get a shout out for AVET Project's fundraising effort with the KSG. All right, this is Kel-Tec's shotgun. $10 gets you a crack at it. It's going to be given away. The raffle's going to take place at our Veterans Day celebration. Go to the website, and we'll see you again next week on American Warrior Radio. We'll tell you a little more about the Coast Guard and their Family Day coming up. But with that, Glenn,
we'll look forward to talking to you next week, and don't forget, think of that.
Awesome.
All right.